If the person knows what they're moving forward to, what that looks like during the interview process, it's not like they step in on their first day and go, so what am I supposed to do? And they're like, they know nothing about the business. They know nothing about the people. None of the whys have been answered prior to them beginning.
Yeah, it's like throwing them in the deep and hope they can swim.
Yeah, that's right. The onboarding process, like I said, even from the get-go, needs to be honesty and talking about these type of things that come up.
So welcome to the business side of Podiatry Revenue.
Thank
Today
you.
we are going to be discussing the 90 days probation period. And we are here with Tina Del Buono. So Tina is an amazing practice manager, and she has her experience, like she had her own practice, and then she worked at top practice, or she's a associate or a partner with top practice, and she helps so many practices with different endeavors to have their business, striving. So Tina, hello.
Hello, thank you for having me, Gisele. This is a great topic, the onboarding process. It is because many times this is the beginning of the failure for the new employee being disillusioned, and also the employer or their manager and staff not liking the new employee. And it actually, a lot of it can be prevented, and it can be a successful onboarding and have a great employee, but it's just not set up for success. It's set up for failure.
Yeah, I think they understand the importance of these 90 days. As a business owner, even myself, when we go through an interview and we're excited with a person, we said, oh, finally got a person, nice person. And then we bring the person in and then relax because we found the right person. But the process didn't, like when the person signed the contract and show up for the first day, that is still, the process of hiring is still happening. Is that right?
That's right. Actually, the interview process is so vitally important. And what happens often is when they can get somebody who's willing to apply for the job, you'll do a Zoom and then you'll do a live interview with them. And usually the employer or office manager, whoever's doing the interview, does the majority of the talking. I recently was helping a doctor doing initial interviews, contacting the people from their resumes and doing the first Zoom interview and then referring it to the doctor and his office in another state to do the in-person interview. And when the doctor was looking at my interviews with the candidates, he said, wow, you don't talk a lot. They really talk. That's the whole point.
True.
Usually, when you do an interview, you'll find people trying to almost sell the job.
Right.
Can you do this and tell me this? And can you, and we need you to do this. And the person's, yeah, yeah, yeah. And they know nothing about the person.
Right.
So the interviewing process is set up incorrectly. We are, as an employer, looking for the right person, but we have to remember that person has to really want to work with us as well.
Right.
So it has to be a win-win from the beginning, before they even walk in the door to begin work. They have to want to,
Right.
because they really want to work here.
Mm-hmm.
And the interview usually doesn't go that way. They don't even know what they're walking into a lot of times.
True.
Yeah.
So that's why the 90 days period, some call it's a make or break your window, because
Right.
that's where you establish the moving forward for the rest of the association, no?
Right. Well, you do establish the moving forward, but I think that if the person knows what they're moving forward to, what that looks like during the interview process, It's not like they step in on their first day and go, so what am I supposed to do? They already know what the first 90 days looks like, or beyond that, because I think they should see what the complete position looks like for over at least a year of their
Right.
training. So they're ready, like, oh, I'm going to learn that. I'm going to learn that, and when they're going to learn it, so that they're ready and they already know what's coming. They may not know how to do it, but they know it's coming. And the employer, this they already have the plan laid out. And that usually doesn't happen. Person
Right.
walks in, sit with Sue, watch Sue. Sue shows you once, okay, now you do it. And they're like, they know nothing about the business. They know nothing about the people. They know nothing about the process. Why do I need to verify an insurance? Why do we none of the whys have been answered prior to them beginning.
Yeah, it's like throwing them in the deep and hope they can swim.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely correct, and it just doesn't work well. Do you
Right.
now, it doesn't mean it doesn't work for everybody, because there are those people who are like, I can do this no matter what. Show me, I can do it. And also, experience does have a little bit to do with it. If they've got some experience, they understand certain things. But it's setting them up for success in our practices, because we've already got it all set up, and that usually isn't it. And a lot of times it's because there's several people shorthanded.
Hmm.
They don't even have people to train,
Uh-huh. It's,
and
it's like setting the expectation. So on the first 90 days, they will set expectations for what is this job going to be,
right.
right?
Well, they set it at the interview before they even hire them. This is what the expectations are. This is the job description. I always gave a job description.
Uh-huh.
This is what you'll learn in the first 30 days. And it was set up first week, second week, third week, fourth week. And then the next month and the next month. At the end of each week, we will meet, we'll go over what you have learned. They're able to ask questions like, well, what if I don't get it? Well, this is how we retrain. This is what we'll go back and we'll redo. So they understand. They don't wait till the end and say, well, you didn't do very well. So now, bye bye.
So there is an onboarding planned training. It's not just like watch her sit next to, and then copy what she's doing. It's just like
Right.
the whole planned training,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
And sometimes they don't even have somebody to train. That's where your protocols really come in, because at least somebody can give them some guidance and some help. And but also during the interview process, that person needs to understand things aren't going to be, we normally like to do it this way, but I have no one to help. I have one doctor who has no one, and brought in one person who had no medical experience. And I was trying to train virtually, and it was just so difficult. They just were like, I can't do this with not having someone hands on to show me. Some
Hmm.
people could do that, and some
Right.
people can't. But so it depends on the situation, how difficult it's going to be. But that person coming in needs to know that.
So in that case, a doctor needed to make time. I think it's an investment of time to train the staff.
And yes, and actually, right now that doctor is training a front desk person. He told me, I'm relearning everything at the front desk. He's
Yeah.
taking the time, and his associates seeing the patients.
And I think also it's a good opportunity to refresh also the protocols, because maybe they have a policy that it's kind of, too old, like it's
Yeah.
something more efficient could be done, and they can identify by training people,
Well, that's absolutely true. And another one of the doctors I'm working with new hires, he said, we don't have training protocols. I said, great, your new hires can write them. So I had a session with the new hires, and the person who was going to be training them, who had no protocols, she's fairly new. Um, as you are taught these steps, write them down,
Hmm.
because not only will it reinforce them in them, but they're writing basic protocols.
Right.
to begin to have the protocols for the process. And
Yeah.
it's it's reinforcing it for them. They're participating in creating something. They're adding value to the practice from the beginning. That's a
Yeah.
good.
Now, let me ask you, Tina. Okay, let's say they have the protocols, they are training, they have a plan, onboard training. Is there any red flag that of signs that a doctor should be watching for during the 90 days period?
Well, of course, there's several, but the in the interview process, and there should be more than just one interview. Um, I did three. One was the initial, and then after that, we would bring them in the office, and I either have another staff member meet with me, and then we would do one with the doctor and the rest of the staff, so that others could listen to this person, ask questions. They could ask questions. We wanted this person to want to know as much as possible about our office as we wanted to know about them. But um, bringing people in to the practice, of course, it's you have to remember they're going to be nervous. They're going to be scared. So sometimes somebody who's overconfident, oh, you don't need to show me that. I know how to do that. Um, Maybe somebody you would need to watch that's going to do things their own way, no matter what you say. So you need to then approach them with, this is the way we do it. We're going to do the training. I need you to repeat this. And if they say that they blow you off, that's somebody who's not going to want to follow the rules. You have to, wonder. Now, if it's somebody who says, oh, I've done this before, here, let me show you how I did it, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody who doesn't need your help,
Right.
yeah. And also walking in on the first day and saying, well, I need to take tomorrow off. I have to get my car fixed. I mean, there's those things. And I've had talked to so many in the past several years. People don't even show up. They'll take the job. In fact, I was just talking to a doctor earlier. He said she took the job and then didn't show up. I don't. And why didn't they
Not
call
great.
me and tell me they weren't coming? But
Right.
they didn't. So it's that people not going, oh, I forgot. Well, that's where your job task list comes in. And that's part of that onboarding training process for the really forever. They have a list of the tasks. They are being trained to do those tasks. And then they know these are the expectations that you need to do each day. If you get to 4 o'clock and you see you didn't get to do the recalls for tomorrow or the calls for tomorrow, you need to then notify someone so that they can jump in and help you. But not only get some help, why didn't you get to them if that's part of what they do? Well, we were shorthanded, or today was an extremely busy day, whatever it was. And then watch for those excuses. Is it somebody who's always giving excuses? They're
Yes.
never completing it. Now, also the job the expectations need to be realistic, that this is what you can complete in the time that you were here.
Right.
So
Now, when the doctor see those red flags, now when it's time to act, like wait
immediately,
for the 90 days, how they will
right away,
intervene.
as soon as you see, like if somebody says, oh, I didn't get to that. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, how can we make sure that you remember that tomorrow? It's immediate. Okay,
Mhm.
do you need a sticky on your computer? Do you need to write it on your hand? What is it that you need to do that you remember that tomorrow? Because this is part of your list. And so the expectation is that you will complete that. And they've already gotten that all in the interview process, that this is how
Mhm.
we do things. So then if the next day, oh, I didn't get, okay, so what's going on that we can't complete it? What's taking longer than you think? You try to figure it out because maybe they're real slow at another task.
Uh-huh.
Maybe they're more apprehensive. Okay, well, maybe you need more training in that. So then you have more time. You try and figure out what it is.
Mhm.
And usually people who don't want to work you know, to their fullest, you can pick up on that right away. And that's when you say, okay, there is enough time for you to do this. This is the expectation. You're not doing it. And I need to see that you can because this is part of your job. And if you can't complete it, then you're not the person for this. Well, you don't tell them they're not the person for the job, but you say that, then what you're telling me is you can't do the job. And they have to have a really good reason. Like I said, if they can't get it done because the expectations are set for more time than what is allowed, and that's where you need to know time flow. How much time should all of this take? Because you can't, in the experience of the person. So maybe you want to start them out with a shorter sheet. You want it, and then next week we're going to be adding this task, which is usually what it is. But you usually can tell when somebody, they just don't want to, really put the shoulder to the grindstone and complete the tasks.
Right.
It has
So
to be addressed right away.
absolutely. Now, if a doctor is on the fence, what's your advice when for a doctor that is on the fence after 90 days? I'm not super thrilled with the person, but it's not the best, but it's what should that person?
Well, if it's not the best, then it's not the best. It's not the right person
Mhm.
for the practice unless you're sold on that person. But I do understand we're having a shortage of employees. And so we talk about this all the time. A shortage of employees. Well, I gotta have somebody answering my phone. Okay, so then let's look at that person. Do they need additional training? Do they need coaching? What is it that doesn't set well with you? And can we reverse that? Can we train that person up so that they are doing that? But as soon as you see qualities that you don't want in your practice. Maybe they don't greet your patients really well. Maybe they, don't really make eye contact. Those are things that you say, okay, I'm going to help you with this. This is how we would like this done. When the patient walks in, good morning, how are you? You look at that patient. You know, that's the expectation, and that's all part of the training. And as soon as you see that they are not somebody wanting to do that, say, this is part of that job. Is that something you can do? Because if you're telling me you can't do it, then, you know, this isn't the job for you because this is what that job, that position takes. You don't wait. And now if it's a personality thing, if it's somebody, for instance, we had two employees working in the back. One could outrun the other one. One, she just could anticipate and really, I mean, she was an A-plus employee. I mean, she would just do it. The other one moved slower, was great with the patients though. She got all her work done. She was a great employee, but the other one was this super employee, you would say. And sometimes the doctor would go, well, why doesn't she do that? That's not her. Do you have any complaints about her work? No. Okay, she's doing her job. Her personality was different. What she saw, her anticipation was different. And so you have to weigh what are the things that you aren't liking? And is it something that is just a personal type thing? Like the doctor really would have loved to have had two of those other, that just wasn't it. But the other one was a great employee. No complaints. Never had to write her up. So you have to look what is it? you know and you have to be able to go, okay, is this something that you then can train to change? And you have
Right.
to have those conversations as to how it interrupts or does not make the practice function well. It has to be that. If it's something that somebody, they're ready to check out at 5 o'clock. In fact, I hear this often. Boy, I mean, she's cleaning up her desk and she's out of there at 5. And I said, I just don't understand. Other people will stay and I just don't understand. And I asked the one doctor, I said, do you know she has three children in 3 different schools that she needs to take that are on 3 different baseball teams. And it's like, well, no, I don't know anything about her children. Well, wait a minute. That's why that
Yeah.
employee has to be out. Ask a question. Why
Right.
is it? And if the work hour is done at 5, this person has to go get children.
Right.
So sometimes, I mean, and that's when I hear often. Other people, yeah, they don't have to. In fact, when I was doing this interviewing process, I was able to, I get people talking, so they tell me about their families, and I say, well, what if those patients are running late? How will you handle that? You know, oh, my mom picks up all my kids, and so I could, do that, but I still want to get home. Or
Uh-huh.
they would say, no, and they said, make sure you let the doctor know that this is your quitting time and this is what you have to do when you go in for the interview. So that
Right.
the doctor understands that person.
Right. Makes totally sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely. You know, it's like also understand the other side, right? Both sides. So
yes,
we are working together. So why it's not just about one? It's a
right.
team collaboration. So
Right.
yeah.
And if you do have that situation where someone has to be out at 5, have someone start at 8:30.
Uh-huh.
And then they stay a little bit later. It's okay.
Right.
You try and find a way to make it work. The onboarding process, like I said, even from the get-go, needs to be honesty and talking about these type of things that come up
Right.
so that you are starting out on the right foot. Oh, I could talk to them about, my kids. I can talk to them about my obligations at home. We have them. And it's uh it's really important. It's vitally important so that that onboarding goes well and the future together goes well.
Right.
Getting all those things answered ahead of time.
Right. Yeah. One board, like it's a clear expectation and establish the ground for both
Mhm.
sides, not just the
Yeah,
doctor, but for the employee as well. So both
yeah,
will be
absolutely.
no expected.
Absolutely.
In case of like a need to terminate, I think also when those hard signs that a doctor cannot work with, that the staff need to let it go. I think it's better to make a hard call earlier because I don't like to let people go. And I
Absolutely.
had an experience where I held on so long for a person, and at the end of that time, like made more damage to me than me feeling sorry to let the person go. So it's a big lesson for me. So which is like, yeah, make a hard call earlier, but do not face the damages later on by
Right.
keeping on a bad stuff, right?
Yeah. Another thing about having a probationary period is that depending on what state you're in, when you grant a probationary period, you're guaranteeing you will keep that person 90 days unless they do something horrific, steal from you, hit somebody, do something. Having them sign a contract, you got to keep them that 90 days. Um, so we never did that. Never. And a lot of, I mean, I don't recommend it because then you're forced to keep that person or
Yeah.
pay them out. You promised
Yeah.
me 90 days. And so by having the onboarding plan and then your training plan for at least, like I said, I do a year, but at least 90 days to 6 months, what they will learn each thing. It's a process. They see what's coming, but you don't have them sign anything. Then if somebody does something, right away, you just let them go. Yeah,
Right.
this is doesn't seem to be. And I always encourage employers to say, if you have questions, if you start having reservations as to, like, I'm not sure, let's talk about it because we want you to want this job as much as we want you, you know,
Right.
to take
Yeah.
the job. So we can talk through things. And a lot of times people they don't feel that they have that opportunity to go sit down with either the manager or the doctor and say, hey, I was told this, and now, I mean, I'm doing this and this and this, and I don't feel I'm getting enough training to do that. And that concerns me because
Right.
they'll be making errors. They don't feel like they can say that. And then the manager or whoever comes to them, you're making all these errors. And they are like, I know, I know, I can't do
Yeah.
it. They don't feel they
Right.
can say, I don't feel I'm getting enough training, or I
Yeah,
don't.
I like how you guys do it with you guys do training and then you test if the person learned, retain because sometimes get trained but the person does not retain. So you know what needs to be retrained.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
that's okay. So at the end of this week, how well did you do on scheduling new patients? Okay, that's what their goal was, scheduling, because that's what we're just working on. There's a lot to that. Well, I don't know if I've got the questions down. Well, yeah, we noticed some of that in the schedule. There wasn't this. Okay, so let's review that. And we're going to also next week look and see how you did. But any questions you have, make sure you ask, you know.
Right.
And then you have to have whoever, hopefully, if you have people who can train, or the doctor needs to step in and say, how are you doing? How are things going? Do you have questions on stuff? It's okay. We understand. We want to help you.
Right.
And when somebody feels like, oh, they want me to do well, they want me to succeed, they're going to try harder if they really want that job. And the doctor, the office manager, the team lead, whoever is going to appreciate that you asked the questions. Did I
Yeah.
did I do this right? I had so often, did I do this right? Could you just check it over? Because they were they just wanted to make sure they did it right. That's all.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, I would tell them, okay, you know how to do this. Now, I know you know. Will you make a mistake sometimes? Maybe,
Yeah.
but we all make mistakes, you know.
Yeah.
But they just need that reassurance that they are doing it correct. And that's a good thing. That means they want to
Right.
do the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, any big mistakes that you recall that practice are doing during probation period? What is the biggest one that
Well,
you
I,
think?
I can tell you my biggest mistake was that I was writing off deductible portions. I didn't realize, I didn't know what a deductible really was. And it said, what the insurance would pay, what the patient would owe, and then it would say deductible portion. And so I just adjusted those off for several months until the doctor got another office manager to, because he was training me to help me. And I said, I don't know what they were EOBs, but I didn't know what they were. And she went over and I went, oh my gosh, I've been adjusting this off all
Oh,
this money. Yeah,
God.
but I had no one to train. And so that's it. Those things happen.
Right.
They absolutely, so you have to make sure that somebody, that's what having their job task list of the things that they're learning and that they need to accomplish every day. I had them. I mean, after 27 years of working, still a task list that I needed to complete,
Yep.
that
I
I
have those
knew.
too. It's
Yeah,
so important because it's like we have so many demands during the day. And if I don't have my task list, I will drift to whatever call me. And then whatever is my task, it's
right.
left not undone.
Yeah, that's
Basically.
correct. But that's where then you go, okay, did I do this? And someone needs to check. Okay, these are the things you were responsible for doing. You did them all. Let's see how you did.
Hmm.
Hey, you did this. This is great. Your initials were after these new patients. Good information that you took. You collected all the co-payments. That's awesome. That means you're reading insurance cards. Somebody needs to look at what they're doing, not wait till a big mistake. And mistakes are going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
But if you're following them and you're asking to see what they did for the day, who did you check in? They put their initials next to it, or you can see which computer checked that patient in. Oh, good, you collected the co-payments, you collected the deductible portion. If they're coming and asking you questions, could you help me with this? That's a good thing. But if you're just leaving them to fend for themselves because you've had them watch a video, or you've told them they've watched their coworker do it, but then now their coworker's working in the back and they're left to themselves, mistakes are going to happen.
Right.
You
So
know,
just like to recap a little summary, I was writing here like topics that you're saying. So it's like setting expectations, write protocols, and review and feedback. Did I miss anything?
well, it's the training, and
Yes.
that's a daily review and feedback. And setting the person up, like you said, the expectations, setting them up for success, letting
Yeah.
them see what this job is. Everybody gets a job description. And when I would have people who I would set up appointments to do an interview, they already had a job description with a list of the job tasks so they could see what was involved.
Right.
And know, okay, this is what this job entails. And then it was like, here's your training sheet. This is how we break it up for you to learn. And then, they knew what was coming. We're setting
Right.
them up to be successful. And if they take the position, we know they already know. And also along with that, is there a raise? How does raises work in your office? So they don't have to be going, well, this job isn't worth this. I should be getting paid this. So along with that training list, we have you're hired in at this amount. And I like if you can hire them all in on certain pay scales. So everybody knows what everybody's making because of what their knowledge and what they're learning and how they progress. So at the
Right.
end of 6 months, you complete all of this, you've passed all this, you'll be earning this. Oh,
Hmm.
and everybody knows that. So
Right.
they don't have to go, well, do I get a raise? Do I get this? When are they
Yeah.
going to talk to me? You're talking to them every single day.
Right. Yes. They already know the expectation.
Right, right. And they know if they're not doing good or they like the job or don't like the job.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tina, thank you so much for your
Oh, well,
wisdom.
thank you.
This is such valuable information that you are sharing here with us. This is gold. And I want the doctors to be able to reach out to you because we could be talking here forever, like we did before in other interviews.
Yes,
But I want to, open up for them to reach out to you if they need. Do you want to share your contact?
yes. Actually, please email me at tina@toppractices, it has an s.com. And you can go to www.toppractices.com. Go to our website, and there's an About Tina. You can read about me. And then it has my email there as well, contact information.
Thank you so much, Tina.
Okay.
That was lovely.
All right. We'll see you later.
See you.
We are looking forward to our next episode. Your questions and comments fuel our discussions, so keep them coming. Don't miss out on the latest updates. Hit the subscribe button and stay connected with us on this journey of success.